Let's begin on line number one. Second word to the President of the Federation of School Councils. And I know a gentleman who has worked towards building a new school in Virginia Park and now concerned with the delay in the offering of the tender for said Virginia Park Elementary, Peter Whittle. Good morning, Peter. You're on the air.
Hi, Pat. How are you this morning?
I'm very well, thank you. How about you?
Good. No, you're right. That's the issue I was calling about. Came up in the House of Assembly yesterday as well. As you know, we've been really involved with this, and hats off to the government for the investment they've made in new schools and infrastructure for the province over the number of years that they've been there. They certainly have been dealing with these issues. Our school, we've had issues of start and stop, and we know the funding's in place, but we're a little bit confused on the project management. I know yesterday our MHA, Lorraine Michael, asked a question in the House on why the tenders were delayed again. The project had some issues last fall. They had to slow it down a little bit, then they got back at it. Tenders were slow coming for the first phase. So all the steel is up, and of course, all this work got done while the kids are in the school. Last summer, we lost the whole summer. Now, during CRTs and all this sort of stuff this year, the kids had to put up with, and it wasn't so much a safety issue. We think we have that under control, but, you're putting up with all the noise on the site and the disruptions and stuff. Now, as soon as school gets finished, the structure, the outer skin, the steel is up, and the next tender, instead of it being called and ready to roll, take advantage of the summer, guess what? It's not even called yet. And we're trying to understand from government's point of view how this makes sense. You missed all last summer. Now, by the time this tender is released, which should be any day now, called, and then it's figured out who's going to get it, and they start doing the outer skin of the school or electrical or whatever else. We're back into the fall. Kids are back in the school, and it's all more disruption. I just don't understand the delays. And yesterday, Ms. Michael asked some questions in the House of Assembly. The Premier responded to them and basically didn't answer the questions on why there would be delays. Just said, look, we've done a great job with infrastructure and to be commended for that. But, the question is, what kind of timetables and project management issues exist in work services transportation when this sort of stuff happens? How much more money does it cost to do concrete in the winter when you could be doing it in the summer? How much more money does it cost to do these things? And it just doesn't seem efficient to me.
Well, I can't really understand it either. I mean, the House, was it last year or the year before, they brought in a new approach to roadwork tenders, and they decided that, and this was quite smart, they decided to put the tenders out earlier in the year to capture as much as they possibly could for the roadwork season. It makes a lot of sense. So if we can pay attention to the roadwork season, which is not exactly what the construction season is, to your point that the cost of doing these types of things the winter may indeed be more than the summer. But when you talk about the effect it has on the students, and to know that the summer is the absolute perfect time to do the big work on the construction of a school, it is hard to understand why this tender hasn't been out. And the crew is anxiously awaiting the children to be gone so they can work unencumbered without interrupting students, what have you. It is curious, Peter, and I can't wrap my mind around it. I don't see the reasons why.
Well, Pat, and to put it more, to put more to the point, it's not like they didn't know this phase was coming. I thought the second tender had been called in January. I was surprised to hear it wasn't done. They knew it was coming. New school tenders that they're doing right now, they're doing phase 1, 2, and 3 all combined in the original tender, so they know that they've got some challenges here, but they just don't seem to be paying attention to our project for some reason. We're supposed to accept these delays without question.
I don't understand the timing whatsoever, and I think you're on the right track here when you question it. So I obviously have no answers for you. Anything else you want to say on that subject? Because there's a couple other things I want to get to.
Not at all. I just wanted to point that out and just talk to you about that.
Well, I think it's a reasonable one. Another issue I've seen floating around on social media, and you posed it to me earlier, was about the time that we spend in school. And I think this is an important conversation, and I bring it up all the time. Teachers don't like me for it. But when we float into Christmas holidays and the word comes down that very little is going on in school so far as structured classes, and that's leading into the Christmas break and the Easter break, and then when they return, and then Halloween's an uproar, and then at the end of the school year, we have a full week of students that are actually not learning or doing anything. We're just marking exams and dealing with students who may indeed not be in advance to the next grade. It's an important conversation, Peter, and it doesn't seem to be much coming from the NLTA and or the department itself and or the House of Assembly. Your take on how these very unstructured and probably, I think, safe to say, wasted weeks, which add up quite severely at the end of the school year. What do you think goes on there, and what should we be doing?
Well, it's an issue that comes up every year at about this time. Parents are looking at the kids sitting on the couch going, what are you doing here when classes aren't officially over until the end of the week, you know? And there's not a whole lot of activities available at the school. Some schools say, you know, go home till you pick up your exam. Other schools say, come on in, you can help us move desks or move papers around. So there's nothing structured. So they go, well, this really wastes our time. Why are you making me go to school? Some schools, I know the junior high that my son goes to, he had a note last week that we could sign saying it was all right for him if he wanted to come home as opposed to be at the school, but the school was opened if you wanted to go, just not a whole lot on the go. So it always is an issue, and it's kind of been something that we've been asked about. My own position on this is that I understand that exams are done. Teachers need time to get their administrative work, prepare report cards. There's a lot of work behind the scenes that we don't see up front.
Right. Yep.
However, if you're going to have the school year go out that extra week, any of these days, I mean, it's always traditionally been, it didn't matter if school closed 2 weeks earlier or whatever, this is the time you did your sports days. This is the time, you got some activities out of the way. The kids are hyper. School's kind of coming to a conclusion. It's a little more relaxed. But at the junior high level, I certainly think that this is an ideal time to have some structure. So the kids do have to go. Some people say that's the parents' responsibility. Well, if there's nothing on the go, it's hard to force the kids to go. And in some schools, they're not even open. The board's position has been the schools should be open and there should be there things for the kids. So let's structure. We can plan around this. Let's structure. These are great times to learn, for kids to learn how to handle money, to prepare for summer jobs, to learn how to write a resume, to have the RNC and to talk about drugs and alcohol over the summer, especially as kids are getting out for the summer and they're going to have more time on their hands. There are things that you could be doing to teach life skills, maybe that aren't as academic, or maybe even talking about what you'll be learning next year, giving overviews. But the idea of doing nothing and just goofing off, that's what's causing parents some concern. So I think it's something that the board and administrators can work towards ensuring that these days are used better. My first concern always is the curriculum getting finished in the year? You're right. I mean, before Christmas, around Easter, this time of the year, there's more. There seems to be more time for other things. But when you throw in snow days, and I know schools on the Bjorn Peninsula, some that missed 2 weeks of classes this year, the concern is, did all the curriculum get done? Was it rushed towards the end? Are our kids prepared for next year? I've been assured by the board they have. I asked some questions yesterday. So that takes a little bit of the pressure off me, but I still think if school is open until Thursday, then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, let's find something productive for our kids to do. Let's structure that. We know it's coming. And if teachers need more time for administrative, there's got to be ways to schedule that as they schedule all kinds of other times and events for kids.
Well, I couldn't agree more. You add in PD days, which are always going to be controversial, even though I think they're required. Maybe not as many as there are, but add that in, and then there's preparation for concerts and other performances. And before you know it, a lot of teachers, I think, in their quiet moments would say to you that they have a hard time jamming the curriculum in sometimes at the end of the year, whether it be snow days on the Bureau Peninsula, the cold and snow days for facing Labrador students. These are real conversations. This is not coming down hard on the teachers. It's just that we don't have maybe the right schedule in place, period, like this last week of school, which is absolutely nothing for junior high. I have a grade 9 boy. There's nothing to do. I've allowed him to not go to school for a couple of days because what's he going over there to do? Fart around.
Well, same situation. I'm looking at Liam, and he's just kind of sitting on the on the computer or whatever. I found a few jobs for him to do yesterday. He was doing dishes and cleaning up and stuff. But I kind of looked, aren't you supposed to be in school, right? But like you, have you had? We said, well, there's 14 kids in school yesterday, Dad. I don't want to go. And why should I have to go? There's nothing on to go. And how do you argue with that?
Yeah, well, it's a fair argument for them to present. Every now and then they've got a good one. And this one I had to play along with. So he's actually accomplishing another couple of things while he's not in school, doing nothing for a couple of days. So he's maximizing his time, and good for him for doing it. But it's an important conversation that we got to keep up. And I think some of the things you said are really good, solid, easy to implement solutions here.
And Patty, and you can't put it at the foot of the teachers either.
I'm not trying to.
No, and I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying, it's part of the conversation. I think everybody can work together to structure it a little better. It's not about the teachers trying, and you're not saying this certainly, but other people are sort of suggesting, they got the summer off and they got an extra week, but it's not the case. The amount of work that teachers have to do behind the scenes and get things prepared, it's busy. It's just a matter of coordinating something to ensure that everybody gets their objectives met, and kids have, especially at junior high level, have something to tie them up in that week week that's meaningful instead of just sitting around the house doing nothing.
I think you're spot on, Peter. I appreciate your time this morning. We'd all like to hear some answers based on the timing of the offering of the next tender for the construction of Virginia Park Elementary, and it's high time we have a very open conversation about how we structure the school year so that these weeks of downtime, so to speak, are not as plentiful as they are. Appreciate your time this morning.
Okay, appreciate yours, and thanks again. I really appreciate the opportunity. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.